The new leak comes after two underwater Russian gas pipelines to Europe began venting following a series of suspicious blasts last month. Germany said Wednesday that despite the reduced flow of oil, it has enough stored supplies. According to Polish authorities, the leak was found on the Druzhba pipeline in southwestern Poland on Tuesday.
At 3:27, the Kurikov power plant lay in mist. Then, out of the tree line, Russian and North Korean units rolled forward. Howitzers, rocket launchers, armored carriers, infantry. It looked like a strike designed to wipe a city off the grid. But what they didn't know was that every approach, every substation, every corridor was already mapped into a trap. You're about to see how Ukraine turned one of its most fragile power arteries into an impenetrable gauntlet.
The new leak comes after two underwater Russian gas pipelines to Europe began venting following a series of suspicious blasts last month. Germany said Wednesday that despite the reduced flow of oil, it has enough stored supplies. According to Polish authorities, the leak was found on the Druzhba pipeline in southwestern Poland on Tuesday.
The question is, how does a power plant become a fortress? Stay with this video and find out. Before we move on, I'd like to ask you a small favor. If you appreciate this content, please take a second to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Over 98% of you watch the videos without subscribing. It costs you nothing, but it makes a huge difference to us. So, did you click the subscribe button? Great. Thank you so much. Now, back to the video. What looks like the weakest point of Ukraine's grid turns out to be a death trap designed layer by layer. On maps, the power plant appeared fragile, an obvious weak link in the electrical system. To Russian and North Korean units moving with armor and artillery, it seemed like the perfect target. Strike here, and whole districts would plunge into darkness. Infantry advanced under the belief they faced only light defenses. What they didn't know, every avenue, every embankment, every road shoulder had already been fed into a digital playbook. At first glance, the site looked unguarded. Cooling towers and switch yards stretched out like soft industrial organs, easy to sever. Fuel convoys and armored cars massed for a breakthrough, expecting engineers to run, control rooms to shatter under the first barrage, and transmission lines to arc into silence. But in reality, before the first tracked vehicle entered sightline of the walls, their approach had been predicted and plotted. This plant wasn't a power station anymore. It was a fortress disguised as industry. The mapping began nights earlier. Small drones, each fitted with thermal cameras, spiraled above the area. From altitude, they created heat scans of every artillery position, every gun barrel hidden under netting, every armored carrier waiting in reserve. That data didn't sit idle. It streamed into a command net, converted into coordinates pinned on live screens. To the Ukrainian crews watching, the attackers moved with the precision of chess pieces, each position known before the first shot was fired.
The president warns Russia is preparing for a decisive energy attack on all Europeans when the temperatures drop. Moscow keeping the taps to a key pipeline to Germany turned off, leaving Europe at risk of gas shortages this winter. Russia's energy company didn't restart the flow of gas through the Nord Stream 1 pipeline on Saturday as planned, citing an oil leak. Analysts said Wood Mackenzie, an energy research firm, told City News in an email that should flows not resume, an extremely cold winter in Europe could lead to strict energy rationing. It's believed the move is potential retaliation for supporting Ukraine.
Ground sensors worked closer in. Compact robots rolled through access roads, peered down culverts, and surveyed choke points. They became scouts the size of toolboxes, creeping along drainage gaps and maintenance tracks. Where an infantry line might stumble into traps blind, the robots turned terrain into a map glowing with danger markers, hidden mines, wire entanglements, folding barricades nested in garages. The plan itself became a minefield understood only by its defenders. Communication breakdown sealed the trap further. Electronic warfare trucks jammed the spectrum, throwing off conventional radios with bursts of noise. Russian troops had to rely on flag signals and line-of-sight hand motions, a method that worked in parades but collapsed under artillery fire. Commanders issued orders blind, with no return feed, forcing columns to push ahead unsure if the route was marked safe or not. Meanwhile, the defense stacked layers. Artillery pieces were massed under camo sheets, their barrels trained but unseen. Patriot batteries crouched in tree belts, their silhouettes blended into rural landscape. Above corridors and alleys, small FPV drones hovered, carrying munitions and cameras, buzzing like hornets and waiting for armor silhouettes. If armored columns advanced, they faced fire raining in arcs from positions they could not see and machines darting straight at their turrets.
Ukraine and Russia are exchanging fire on multiple fronts. Bridges are being destroyed, cities are burning, and oil depots are under attack.
All right, in other news, Russia has conducted fresh strikes on Ukraine's Zaporizhia region. Ukraine says Russian forces carried out 567 attacks over the last 24 hours.
At least 7 people were injured in a missile strike, while 2 others were hospitalized, and 23 private homes, 12 apartment buildings, and a post office suffered damage.
But the defense went beyond static firepower. A deliberate deception plan waited. Electronic trucks simulated emissions, imitating radio channels and false signals. These ghosts drew Russian armor toward specific corridors that looked unguarded. Once inside, they were placed inside a triangle of overlapping fire arcs. What felt like an opening became a cage closing around them. The moment contact came, everything detonated at once. Columns surged into the outer yard and were bracketed by artillery fire, shells cutting the extremities of their column. Tanks funneled through gaps only to find drones slamming into their flanks. Motorized infantry tried to deploy, but FPV bursts cut squads apart as they dismounted. From tree belts, hidden launchers erupted, missiles streaking low across fields into the lead armor. Within minutes, what was meant to be a strike spearhead bled momentum, trapped without reliable coordinates, squeezed against walls of fire. By mid-assault, the attackers understood their error. They had come expecting to smash a door down. Instead, they were walking through a hall where every step had already been measured. Their strength was consumed in channels they did not choose. They were not hunters. They were targets lured and trapped. And this was the point. The power plant was not just defended. It was remade into a demonstration that a fragile artery of energy could be shielded by a web stronger than solid walls. A fortress not of stone, but of signal, steel, and deception. A $5 billion strike group didn't fall against concrete walls. It broke against a web. Drones above, robots below, artillery hidden, signals bent into traps. Weakness turned into strength. A fragile plant into a fortress. And that raises the question. If even one energy site defended this way cannot be taken, what target remains safe? Comment your choice below. This is the story of modern war, where what looks soft becomes lethal, where speed means survival, and where networks, not numbers, decide the outcome. Subscribe and join a community that seeks to understand the realities of modern conflict.